Hello, book sniffers. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about books and book covers and how to make your book beautiful and not break the bank. And I know that all sounds very contradictory, but I have some tips and tricks that I can share with you to kind of make sure that you get that beautiful book on the bookshelves, but you don't spend over $3,000 on a cover. So let's talk about that. So, just so you know, I do have a couple of clients that have spent around $3,000 for cover, and they are beautiful. And you can spend a lot of money on covers and get a wonderful cover. There are loads of authors, or not authors, but there are loads of graphic designers and cover artists out there that they are exceptionally good at what they do. And so you do pay for them. That being said, a lot of you who are getting started in this business maybe can't afford that right off the bat. And there is something to say for a cover that can really capture the attention of your readers. It is not something to be under utilized or overlooked or taken for granted. So, just case in point, I have a client that specifically gets readers because of his author. He's had many comments on his books, and people have said, "I bought your book just because of the cover." And luckily, the book inside has not disappointed, which is great. But you want to make sure that your cover is going to capture the attention of your readers. This is a very, very saturated market. There's a lot of competitors out there. 4.4 million books are published a year, and that was pre-AI. So you're looking at, trying to get noticed in a very, very busy market. You have to be louder than everybody else. And the way to be louder is to have a really pretty book. And believe it or not, people do buy books because they're pretty. I have a really good example of that. I use this a lot in my discussions about covers. Is I bought this book specifically because of the cover. Erin Morgenstern, she spins a good yarn, and she's gotten a lot of critically acclaimed and great reviews. She's been critically acclaimed, and she's got a lot of great reviews for this book. Frankly, I didn't finish it. I got about halfway through and I got bored. It does take a minute to get through her book, but it is a good book. In fact, I get pretty much roasted by some other editors and colleagues for not finishing this book, and they always tell me to go back, finish it. What are you doing? And I probably should, but at the time I didn't finish it. But I do keep it on my shelf, and the reason is because, man, that cover is beautiful. This is silver foil. She's got this awesome interior. The cover is very intriguing. The cutout is gorgeous. Less is more, but the typesetting is amazing, and it's just a beautiful book. So it did capture my attention. I bought this book specifically because of the cover. But that works. It works, guys. So use the cover to be your billboard. Cover design does have to be genre appropriate. Keep that in mind as well. You want to make sure that you are paying attention to what the genre trends are, and that you're not doing something that's going to not align with your genre. Case in point, I've had another client recently put out a nonfiction book, and while the book was beautiful and it was a great story, the cover, he didn't go with the cover I recommended, and he went with another cover that he preferred to have. And unfortunately, it makes his book look like a fiction. And his book is not a fiction. It actually is not even, it is a true story about his journey. And it has nothing to do with what the cover looks like. The cover, I mean, it does, but it doesn't. The cover styling makes it look like a children's book fiction. So he removed some elements that are very, very important when distinguishing a fiction from a nonfiction. And I think it's gonna kind of bite him in the butt in the long run. But initially, he's doing pretty well in the market. So I could be wrong, but I doubt it. So some things to make your books beautiful are typesetting, art that you choose to put on your book. specific beautiful elements that will make your book beautiful. I love this old book. This is an old book. This is actually Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. I think this one was published like in 1939. This is like an old one, but the cloth cover has the print of the rabbit on it. And of course, we have the original illustrations, which make this book absolutely timeless and beautiful. But hiring a good cover designer to create a nice series cover for you is really, really helpful, making sure that those elements match, again, your genre. And then some other elements that people are really, really, I mean, come back into popularity as the printed edges, always gilded pages, and then foiled pages. And, those artistic elements that really kind of attract readers. I bought this book again, specifically because of the painted edges. I liked it. I also love Susan Collins and the whole series, but my original series looks like this. And luckily, Susan Collins is actually doing this for these books. She's going to bring these in so that I can have matching set. But I loved this cover and I wanted to have this cover. So I might just buy the set again with these covers. I don't know. I'm kind of a nerd. But those are some things that you can do to make your cover beautiful. Some of the things you can do to make the interior cover are the interior formatting beautiful is to have, header elements and ornamental breaks that are unique to your book, making sure that the formatting is done correctly and it's up to standards. You don't want your book to have crowded text, and you don't want to have things misaligned or offset. So these are all things that you need to make sure that you pay attention to. The ways to make the book beautiful on a budget is to, and I don't recommend this, but a lot of people will go and they'll go to like Fiverr or Reedsy or some other places to kind of like find either cover designers that have pre-made covers, or they'll buy them pre-made. I don't usually recommend those. Sometimes, like, there's a couple of reasons why. Often they need to be tweaked because they don't fit in the templates that are appropriate for the distribution choices that you might have, but also that they sometimes they just come off a little bit too generic, frankly. So while they might be cheaper, they're not always the best choice. Nonfiction, I will say that this is kind of like, this can be a little bit of in nonfiction, you can get away with it a little bit more than you can in fiction. I never recommend using a fully AI generated cover. There are some real generic qualities that come with that as well. And oftentimes it will put you in the algorithms kind of in a dump pile. So I would never recommend that. AI generated covers, while they may sometimes really be striking, oftentimes they have those elements that people can recognize right off the bat as a generic AI generated cover. And so I don't always recommend. What is going on with my hair? I don't always recommend, sorry about that, guys. I just noticed my hair was looking funky. I don't always recommend going with an all in AI generated cover. So they can be cheap, but they can look cheap. So there's some other things. You can use Canva to create covers. I often don't recommend that right off totally either. Canva's kind of generic. I use Canva for things like creating like social media posts, or thumbnails for certain things, or helping me create like certain, like, just elements, maybe even sometimes logos, but I won't use it to create an entire cover. They have a generic quality to them. They're not usually specifically tailored to your genre, and frankly they look cheap. So I would always, always, always recommend, my first recommendation is always to find a graphic designer or cover designer. Cover designers who specifically understand and know your genre. That is a quality you can't, you can see. A good example of this is I sometimes dabble in covers, and I am not the best at it. Just FYI, I'm the first one to admit that, but I can do like some nonfictions, and I have dabbled in some fiction. My quality covers are not near the level of quality that I see when I talk to my print to pro team. There's a couple of people particularly that I actually tap into quite a bit when I'm getting over my head. And she, one of them in particular, she always shows me up, and I know she's going to do it. It's because she's amazing and she has the talent, and she just has an eye for it, and it's what she does. And she's studied and trained and been doing it for decades, whereas I've been in this side of the field for decades. So sometimes some of us just have talent, and she has it. But whenever I get a cover and I'm like, okay, what do you think, or can you fix this up, whatever, she just puts her little, sometimes it's so subtle, but you can tell she just made it that much better. um anyway, there are ways that you can make your cover yours without opting into AI. You can take a photograph that you've taken and create and stylize it. You can hire cover artists that aren't really cover artists. In particular, this is Ryan Bittner. Ryan Bittner has done several authors, or a couple authors of mine. I think he's actually done some other authors now that like cover art, but he designs art, I think, for games. You can find him at Happy Tree Ryan, or Happy Tree Instagram. He's amazing. But anyway, I love this guy for his monsters, but he created this art for this particular author, Alicia. And we just typeset over his art. She hired him for the art, and then we typeset over it. It was a beautiful cover. And Ryan, he just does an amazing job, but he definitely has a style. She kind of had a darker, this is kind of like a terror kind of story, not really, for children. And I know it looks like he only has one leg. He's supposed to. But anyway, that's just a teaser for the book. It's really a great book. But anyway, Ryan did a great job on that. And so that's something you can do. Some of the things that we did on formatting is you can, create those elements that make your book unique. She wanted, chapter headings. We also created some really pretty matching ornamental breaks that went with her styles. That didn't cost extra. We designed those for her as part of her formatting package. So you can have a professional formatter make your book beautiful, even if you're just doing a print on demand and you can't do anything more than that. So keep in mind there are ways to do that, but you don't want to skip or skimp on your typesetting. Don't use generic fonts. Don't use what are they called, like default fonts. Don't use like Arial or old, like old fonts that are no longer in style. You can buy fonts pretty cheap. The licensing for fonts are around $15 to $20. Sometimes you can find them as low as $5 to use on your books. Don't skimp on that. Go ahead and get the licensing for those. And also make sure when you're buying stock art, you're paying for the licenses to use those. But avoid clip art, default fonts. Don't crowd your covers. Keep them very simple. Keep the art simple. Books that are very crowded. I have examples of bad covers in my Imprint Academy. You can always learn more about how to design your book. But there are some really bad covers out there. Sometimes they're pretty funny. But avoid crowded images. That don't make your book so busy that you can't see what the book is about. So you can invest on a solid cover design without breaking the bank. A lot of my clients will spend anywhere from $300 to $500 for a solid cover. That makes sense. Don't skimp on this. In fact, a lot of times people will buy a cover, or they will, like, case in point, this. Sometimes we will buy a book specifically for the cover, even if we don't like the book. It's just the way we are, and we collect things. I mean, I'm a collector. I will finish sets. I mean, you kind of can't really see it, but that's the Spiderwick Chronicles there. What you can't see on my other shelf are all my YA and fiction fantasy sets that I have. And I haven't even finished, like, one book in particular is Mrs. Peregrine's School for Odd Children or whatever. That series, I haven't even read it, but I loved the way the books looked. So I just bought the entire hardcover set so that they can sit on my bookshelf. I loved them. But yeah, 13th Reality, Fablehaven, of course, the Harry Potter and all of Shel Silverstein's books. They were all, they're all just the same trim size. They all look very nice and styling because they all match. Same fonts, same, it just, they look good on a shelf. So Dashner's Maze Runner series looked really good. So all of those things, I've got them all on my bookshelf because they look beautiful. So those are things to consider. When you go to a bookstore and you're looking at books, look at the ones that really capture your eye and ask yourself, why does that book cover like grab me? And think about that. Think about the genre, consider those elements. And then when you're designing your books, you can figure out what works for your book. But don't skimp on the fonts, the art, and the design of a book cover. The Independent Book Publishing Association, IBPA, they have a list of book standards that you should follow. Some of the things you should know and be aware of is your barcode. The pricing of your book should be on the book cover. This is something that I didn't used to teach, but now I do. And there's very specific reasons for that. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can always hit me up at printtopro.com. But, those are all things that you need to be very, very aware of. The spine and the alignment of the text on the spine is very important. Things like this you don't even really think about, but they're important. And when they're not right, you can tell. But all those standards, they are listed on the IBPA standards checklist. I will put that in the description below as well. But anyway, you can create a beautiful book. You don't have to break the bank. You don't have to, opt in for the foiled pages or anything like that. Although if you want to, a really great way to capitalize on that and to be able to afford it is to create a Kickstarter campaign. And Troy and I talk about that a little bit in our podcast at Pros Talking Pros. If you haven't subscribed to that already, you should go over there and check it out. Again, we have that podcast and it's on podcast platforms everywhere. So you don't have, you can listen on the go. But anyway, subscribe to that. And then if you want more from me, or if you want me to touch on a particular topic, hit me up, let me know. I am happy to talk about what you would like me to here on this channel. This is Red Ink. Again, I talk about things that might be related to making your book beautiful, producing a beautiful product for your clients or for your readers, and who are your clients, or establishing yourself as an author in an author business. So you can check more out at printtopro.com, and I will catch you on the flip side. Thanks. Make your mark.